to introduce you to today's panel. We have two very special guest speakers with us today. We have Tony Mancini, who is the Chief Academic Officer for the University of Roehampton Online. So welcome, Tony, and thanks for joining us today.
Hi everybody, and I'm very pleased to be here, and I hope we're going to have an excellent 1 hour or so, or a bit less together, and hopefully this will be very useful to everyone.
Great, and we look forward to learning more about this program with you, Tony. Can I just ask you to pop on your video for us so that our listeners can see you today?
Absolutely.
And in the meantime, maybe you can just give a quick introduction of yourself, Tony, and tell us a little bit more about your role as the Chief Academic Officer and what that means for the University of Roehampton.
Okay. In the meantime, I'm trying to pop up the video. Here it is. There you are. I hope you can
Wonderful.
all see me. Okay. So what is my role? Basically, I'm in charge of academic delivery. And if I can translate that further, that means I'm responsible for the team of faculty, those that we commonly call the teachers, the instructors. I prefer calling them faculty. So I'm ultimately responsible for their performance, for the quality of their teaching, and for their interaction with the students. I also am responsible to make sure that the curriculum that we offer meets the requirements of the Higher Education Board of the United Kingdom, as well as the needs of the students that enroll into the program.
Great, thanks, Tony, and we look forward to learning a little bit more about your involvement with the program as we go through as well. Our second guest speaker today is Travis. He is an enrollment advisor for the University of Roehampton Online, so a warm welcome to you, Travis, and thanks for joining us today.
Thank you. Very, very happy to be here.
Great, and Travis, can you tell us a little bit about your role as an enrollment advisor and what that means for online students?
Great question. Well, I am an enrollment advisor, so I am with the student from the initial inquiry all the way up to the first 3 months of the program. So I'm very much here to help you when it comes to figuring out whether the program is a good choice for you, and also to help you through the application process, and in the first 3 months to help you get used to the online learning aspect, as well as just to help you through the program.
Great, and we're going to have a chat with you later on, Travis, and find out a little bit more about what online learning is at the end of the webinar. But for those of you listening, I'm going to give you an overview of what we're going to cover today. So we're going to first have a discussion with Tony about what is supply chain, and then we're going to have a look at the difference between supply chain management versus operations management, also the strategic supply chain and competitiveness, what the University of Roehampton program offers, and then also some contemporary issues and trends related to supply chain management. Now, it's important to note that we're going to have 2 Q&A sessions during this webinar. Really, these Q&A sessions are for you to ask your questions to our panelists today. And so, as I said at the beginning of the webinar, please put your questions in the Q&A box, and I will make sure that we make time to ask them to our panelists during this webinar. So send them over, and we can have some interesting discussions during the webinar. So let's get started. Tony, can you start by explaining to us, what is supply chain, and maybe kind of give this to us in a kind of language that we can all really understand. What is supply chain? Okay,
thank you, Pearl, and once again, welcome everybody. What you should be seeing on the screen right now is a picture that basically represents supply chain, but let me explain it a little bit in a few words. And in this particular picture, what you see, every little detail of it really shows what the supply chain is. But in essence, supply chain is a system. So on the screen here, we see a system made up of different little bubbles, and it's a system that involves organizations, it involves people, it involves technology, it involves the activities around people and technology, it involves information at all levels, and it involves resources. And when we talk about resources, we don't only mean human resources, but we attack that to with financial resources as well. So human resources, financial resources, all of those that work in synergy together. And the key here is the work in synergy. So if you look at the arrows that they move in every direction, there's a reason for that. It's because of the synergetic effect of all these little elements here. But to do what? What is the whole purpose? So if you look at the term supply chain, the term itself, chain, means that they have to be linked together. And that's hence the synergy. That's where it comes from. And what is it exactly that we're supplying? We're supplying either a good or a service that starts from the supplier all the way to the customer. So at the end, the customer has to benefit from that particular good or service. So supply chain, that's what it basically is. And if I can even refine it further, it's an entire system that makes the customer use whatever they are looking for in a product or a service in an efficient and an effective manner.
Great. Thanks there, Tony, for that introduction on what is supply chain. Now, kind of moving forward, so supply chain and operations management are often used interchangeably. So are they synonyms? And what are the main difference between these two concepts?
Okay, well, that's a good question, Pearl. Thank you. And because I'm not sure where the audience is geographically located and in what fields they're operating, but supply chain is really the 21st century version of what used to be called management science in the old days. Those that are have been around the industry world as long as I have, we used to call this quantitative methods. Then it became management science. Then it became operations research. All of those were engineering-based functions, where the key was to optimize, and optimize to all costs. Then there was a little twist that was brought in, perhaps after the Japanese Revolution. When I say Japanese Revolution, I mean the quality movement, which became operations management. But operations management was again technical, and operations management basically is a tactical product or process which is involved in the design, in the operations, and in the improvement of systems to make them productive. It represents a set of functions that transforms inputs into outputs. So just to give you an example, inventory management is part of operations management. And inventory management's its main function is to make sure that the cost of warehousing and the cost of ordering material is the lowest possible. So that's what operations management is. It's still a technical function, and it's at the tactical level. I'm not downgrading it because you need that in operations to make it work. Now, supply chain is a little bit of a synonym, a little bit like operations management, but there's got a lot of differences. As I explained in my introduction of what it was, it's a link. It's a chain that addresses various functions and various content areas, such as, if I can recall, people, technology, resources, etc. And when they all work together in a synergetic movement to move goods and services from supplier to customer, it operates at the strategic level, and that is the very key. So perhaps this is the first key message of today, is that supply chain is operating at the strategic level as opposed to the tactical level. And if I could just make the link, I know I don't want to dismantle all the questions here, but if I think about this, because when I will talk about the program at Roehampton, this is where I want to keep the focus at the strategic level. And so supply chain, then, what it is, it's a flow of information, again, that goes from supplier to customer, of process and resources across a network. And that particular network could be a small network, it could be a business network, it could be a non-business network. A lot of times we associate supply chain with business, but in reality it's associated with organizations, which I'll come back to it in the next slide or two. But So all of this so that it drives competitiveness. Because today we're in an environment which is global, and companies and units and enterprises, even governments, deal at the global network. So competitiveness is a key driver to the supply chain element. So in a nutshell, operations management is still a technical and tactical, involves into the design, whereas supply chain is a strategic element of organizational effectiveness to drive competitiveness to its fullest degree.
And it's interesting there that that this term, this way of looking at business with the supply chain management seems to have evolved as businesses have evolved. From what you mentioned about the kind of global nature of a lot of these businesses in the world now. So it's been through a whole process, it seems.
Precisely. That's one of the key elements here. It's the evolvement of the function which was known as operation management, which was located at the organizational level. Just to give you an example, I come from from before my academic days. I come from the telecom industry, and in the telecom industry, we were notorious to have an operation management system that was the most efficient and the most effective because that's how we operated on cost minimization. But it was driven at the local level, so it was all at the tactical level, until our company acquired assets globally, where we realized that our system of operations management was not functioning effectively because we had dealt it at the tactical level. And so we had to start looking at it, and we had to start linking, what was the efficiency of the entire supply chain with the mission of our organization, which became a global organization. And effectively, that's the transformation.
Yeah, it's very interesting how that these changes really drive this new focus in business. And
I just say one other thing, and it's not the organization that drives the change, which is the key. It's the customer requirements that drive the change. So customer needs are changing. Let's just look at, without digressing too much, but let's just look at technology and the availability of products on technology. So that's what the customers require. So organizations have to effectively change and have to address customer requirements so that they are met. Otherwise, they're going to be driven out of business by those that are caring for it. And how that is done through an effective and efficient supply chain.
Great, thanks, Tony. And so we've determined what supply chain is and how it's linked to organizational strategy. But can you elaborate on its main features and how they're linked to strategy?
Okay, so as I mentioned about 2 minutes ago, it's got to be linked to the mission. So let's assume that there's one company, for example, Walmart, just to name that one, and I don't even want to handle it. It could be Dell, it could be anything. It could be Coca-Cola, it could be, and I'm talking about business, but it could be the United Nations for that matter. There's a mission that is the key driver of the workflow of the organization, of the living, and the supply chain, which is linked to that mission. What it simply means is that once you know what the customer needs are, and I keep focusing on these customer needs, the suppliers are going to be selected on the basis of those supplier needs, and the relationship between supplier and customer and customer, I just want to make an apartheid here, is that a caveat is in the sense that the customer doesn't have to be a paying customer. It could be someone that is inside another organization that is a customer. So to make the link between the two, to make the link between the supplier and the customer, the only effective way to do it is through a supply chain that works all in synergy. And that is a key element of the mission of any organization that wants to stay healthy. And an organization that wants to stay healthy, it is not only linked to the bottom line of productivity and survival on the financial matter, but it's got a link with the three elements of a healthy organization as well, which is financial, which is people, and which is customers. So once you have those in balance, the people, the customers, and the bottom line, the financial bottom line, that's when you have a healthy organization. So the effective supply chain that is linked to the strategy then provides the ability to compete, and to compete globally, as I just mentioned. And why do you want to compete globally? Is because that's what the world today is that it's made up of various units that we call countries, but basically the needs of these various units are very similar. So you have to be able to compete that way, and to serve the customer wherever she is or he is. And in essence, once you have established that, then you can say that you're really competitive, and by having an effective strategy. And this effective strategy comes at I would say, from the benefits of having an effective and efficient supply chain. You hear me say these words very often, effective and efficient, because, effective and efficient, effective is to do what it's supposed to be doing, and efficient, it's doing it the best way possible. And so that's how supply chain drives strategy and competitiveness.
Yeah, that's interesting, how companies, you can really see the big global players, the ones that have changed their approach and adapted, have really succeeded, and others that are maybe been a bit slow on that. It's a hard world to be in if you haven't adapted efficiently, as you say, with the taking this kind of strategic approach.
Yeah, well, just if I may say a few more things. This is a while ago, but a long time ago. Some of you perhaps don't even remember, but there were days where the cars, cars inside the hood of the car, everything was driven through a carburetor. Today, there's no car that are carburetor. Everything is fuel injected. So those makers of carburetors, if they didn't strategize properly at the beginning, well, they stayed behind the wheel, and right now they're out of business. I mentioned that I'm at I'm a product of the telecom industry. We call it now telecom industry. In the old days, we called it telephone industry. If my company, the company that I was working for, not my company because I never owned a company, but if the company that I was working for had stayed in the telephone business, we would have been out of business right now. We would have been bankrupt. So what it did is that it went into information, and it became an information company. Instead of a telephone company. So it provided all information products to the customer, from bandwidth to mobile to cloud computing to anything. And really the telephone itself has become, even though I'm holding one to my ear right now, it's because my headphones are not working, but the telephone has become a secondary product of any telecom company right now because of that involvement,
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's all very fascinating world that we're living in right now. And so, from the Roehampton point of view, I mean, what is Roehampton offering in terms of the program, and how is the strategic supply chain management program linked to strategy and competitiveness that you're talking about here?
Okay. So now we're, if you can take stock of what I said in the last 15 minutes or so, and where I zoomed in, and if the key words are strategic, efficiency, effectiveness, and one encompassing framework is that this is a management degree. So if we look at the program at Roehampton, it is called Strategic Supply Chain Management. So the strategic, in the title of the program, strategic is the very first word, and the last word to close the loop is management. So number one, it's not a tactical degree, and it's not a degree that deals with engineering. And it's a few times I mentioned engineering. By all means, I do not discredit it. My dad wanted me to be an engineer, and I preferred studying something else. But an engineering is a noble profession. But this is not what this is. It's a management degree. So how does this get linked to it? So let me describe the program a little bit and what you will study. So you see 8 lines here. So this means that there's 8 modules, 8 courses, 8 modules in the program. If I look at the first seven are basically 12-week modules, while the last one, the management research project, is approximately a 7-month. We don't call it dissertation because it's a, you know, again, this is a management program, so it's a management research project, but it's a capstone project at the very end. But if I go at the beginning very quickly, so to prepare, no, if I stay back at the end, so to prepare for the management research project, right before that, there's a research methods module that is given to all the students. And if I now skip at the top, you see learning and leading in a dynamic era. So this one is the intake module, is the very first module that everyone will take, that I will speak to in a minute. But in between, the other 5 particular lines, from managing competitive supply chain networks to the emerging opportunity and challenges in supply chain networks, that's the bulk of the supply chain program itself, the specific modules that pertain to supply chain, and what I've spoken to, you know, since the beginning, all those elements are encompassed in these 5 modules. So quickly, the first one. So just to put you in context, Pearl, maybe I don't know if I'm going too deep into it, but is it okay if I describe the?
Absolutely, go ahead.
Okay.
This is really, I hope this is really interesting to our listeners. It's certainly interesting for me. So please do go ahead.
Okay. So learning and leading in a dynamic era. Just to put it in context, the strategic supply chain management program will be the 5th one that we're launching at Roehampton. And there's 4 others. There was one recently launched, the HR program, and 3 that were launched in 2012. All 5 programs will share the first module, which is common across all 5 programs. So this means that you will be in the same classroom as people who are studying an MBA, project management, information systems, human resources, and supply chain. The module, just like all the other ones, but this particular module at the beginning is made up of 6 learning units. 1 learning unit is 2 weeks of work, mostly based on independent study. And when I say mostly based on independent study, means that your work will be, the bulk of the work will be assessed at the very end of the module. But that particular work will have been scaffolded and would have been, you know, taken step by step into individual unit assignments, as well as shared activities that you will share. Excuse the repeat of work, but with your cohort, with your classmates. And the title itself, Learning and Leading, is we teach you about leadership in this particular one, because in management, one of the key traits of management is leadership. So this is common across all the modules. So then if I can speak about the 5 ones, if we look at each one of these modules, then we'll go straight into the competitive supply chain networks. What I explained to you about competitiveness and strategy in 200 words or less, you will spend 12 weeks talking about this and learning about it, because there's various theories, practical applications, and elements that deal with this particular element. Once we have done that, once we have taught you the strategy, then, keep in mind what supply chain is, from supplier to customer. Well, we've got to start on the left-hand side of that chain, which is, the supplier side. So the sourcing and the procurement functions of the supply chain will be taught next. Now, if I may say, this one here deals a lot with management concepts and not so much about technical, sourcing, but there's going to be a touch on it. And then once that is done, once the strategic sourcing and procurement has been covered, especially if you're in the goods manufacturing and the goods distribution as opposed to service, those goods have to be transported from point A to point B, and then they have to be warehoused somewhere. And in the middle, right in the middle, we offer a module which is called Operations and Logistics Management. Now, this one is the module that resembles the most to what operations management is. So we give you a flavor of it, so that you need to have that, and perhaps I should have said that at the beginning. The differences between supply chain and operations management are not mutually exclusive. You have to have operations management knowledge to operate a supply chain effectively and especially efficiently. So that particular module, operations and logistics management, will talk about warehousing, about inventory management, about transportation, and especially about queuing, like waiting lines. If you're in the service environment, the waiting line, whether it's a physical waiting line or a virtual waiting line to a call center, is a key function of effective management and efficient. Because just so that you know, a customer who waits on the line longer than he or she wants to usually does not come back. And so effective waiting line management is an important thing and will be taught here. In the globalization world, we are dealing with huge systems, basic, large systems, and they're not local systems. And for that matter, systems and technology elements are very, very a key function of the program, and they will be taught towards the latter part of it. And by that, what I mean is that we will talk about things that were prevalent a few years ago, which are enterprise resource planning systems, but more so customer relationship management, which is web-based technology, and it encompasses more than simply the planning functions, but also the customer relationship for satisfaction and return business. So that's part of the fifth module. And then lastly, just before you get into the research area, we're going to look at the what's coming up, what are the trends, emerging opportunities, and what are the challenges in these networks, which I think I'm going to talk a little bit more in the next slide. So that's what the program is all about.
Yeah, so we're going to focus on that module in particular. Thanks for that insight there of the program. It sounds like a really fascinating program, and I like the way you mentioned there that things like operations management and having that understanding has to go hand in hand. You can't just see one side of the business without understanding the other. So yeah. It's interesting that is also a very big part of that program.
Yeah. I just say 30 more seconds on this, like what you just said. And I said, supply chains pertain to goods and services. They pertain to businesses and non-profit businesses like governments. But the bottom line is that wherever they pertain to, the bottom line is that they have to be efficient. And to be efficient, you need that operations part of it, which we always talk about, either maximizing the top line, which is revenue, or minimizing the bottom line, which is cost. And that's basically what it is. Okay.
Great, thanks, Tony. And so, as we mentioned there, so you talked about the contemporary issues and trends with the last specific module of the program. So, what can you tell us more about this module and why it's important?
Yep, and there's a reason also why it's there. The last module of the specific content is this particular one, and the one that is just before the research, because this will give you. Can you hear me?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. This will give you sort of the platform and the bridge to do the research, and that's where because I suspect, after being an academic for quite many years, I suspect that a lot of students, after they will have reached this level, they will want to do a management project that deals with issues that are coming up as opposed to issues of the past, and that's why the module is at the very end. And so what are the contemporary trends? What are we talking about? Well, we have things like the technology trends today that deal especially with cloud computing, big data, and mobile, and those are the main trends. And without going into too much of that technology, but we know. When we're talking about cloud computing, if you don't know what that is, it's an application, of big data. And cloud computing, it's a process that uses a network of remote servers and hosted on the internet. So on the internet, you have all sorts of remote servers, and this cloud computing uses this process to store, manage, and process data. And whether the data is in small chunks or in big chunks. and rather than using a local server or a personal computer. So, you know, when today everybody says, well, you know, and I'm sure you do the same thing, where you store files and we all say this, they're in the cloud, you know, Dropbox, things like that. That's what cloud computing is all about, and that will be part of the last module, as well as big data. Big data is simply, you know, the ability to manage large data sets. And why are we focusing on that? It's because of the global aspect of organizations today. And of course, mobile technology. Those of you that I'm pretty sure that you know, but with the right technology, you will be able to access to your classroom. At least you know, I'm not sure if everybody will, but it's possible to access classrooms through mobile, through your iPhone, and you know, everybody uses that. So those are the particular trends today, and we do that. Is for what is the reason for doing that? It's for improving customer service. So we're going to have, you know, a customer-oriented application in the last module. And how do you improve customer service? We are all customers of some product or service, and what is our key feature that is common to all of us? When we want today in the 21st century, when we want something, we want it now. And we want all of it. So the ability to execute as soon as possible is there. And the ability to fix errors as soon as possible is very important. So those are the main issues. So the technology part, the service levels, the ability to execute fast, the management of big data, and if something doesn't work, to be able to switch and have a contingency plan to make sure that, you know, all those characteristics of customer satisfaction are maintained. Those are the trends in supply chain. And again, to repeat that, this is going to be possible by managing effective and efficient supply chain networks. And so that's what we'll teach you in the last module. Hopefully that will prepare you then for your research. And then once you complete your research, then we'll meet you at graduation. There you go.
Which is, yeah, it's always a very exciting time when we get to meet our students at graduation.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tony, for that really interesting insight into the program. And I really hope for those of you listening that you've really enjoyed that introduction there. And we're going to have a Q&A session now. This will be the first of two. So if you have any questions, or even if you have a comment on what Tony said, please send them in the Q&A and we can have a discussion around what you want to know. And we've started getting a few questions in already. So one of the questions that one of our listeners had was, okay, so what are the types of career opportunities? You know, they were saying, okay, you know, this is all well and good, but what is there a future in supply chain? What kind of careers are being formed for around this program?
Okay. Apart from, and you know, I don't want to exclude them, apart from the traditional careers that handle all the operations of an organization aspect, and the operations is very wide. What this particular program has done is that it has opened the door to the corporate offices on, you know, working with the chief strategy officer, and the opportunities are there, like work in the strategy, work in the mission, work into the development of the global competitiveness of the companies, and it is one of the programs today that is sought the most, one of the most in companies that operate globally. So the opportunities are there. I don't have figures with me, but I was speaking with a colleague at a local university in here. I'm from Canada. I'm from Montreal, by the way. I should have said that at the beginning. And I was speaking to a colleague from McGill University, and their regret, in terms of this particular question, their regret is that they haven't produced a supply chain program fast enough to meet the needs of the corporations, and that's what it is. So the opportunities are there.
Great. And another question that's just come in was, so what is the importance of sustainability and ethics in supply chain today? It's a good question there.
Yeah, that's it's good thing that you asked me that, and I should have brought it up before. As you know, we are recruiting faculty because Roehampton is a growing partner for us, and so we're continuously recruiting faculty to teach in these programs. And we are recruiting at the moment. And on the advertisement for the job description, I am looking for faculty who are working in the area of sustainability. Because sustainability, and just to make another side comment here, when these programs are validated, validation means that in the UK system, external examiners look at the program, provide their comments, and then there's a panel that says, yes, this meets the needs of the higher education UK world, and therefore you can give this program and it will be recognized. The main comment that we received was precisely this particular point here, that we had to have a sustainability element throughout the program, and they didn't say necessarily in each module, but throughout the program you must have that, and when you come, especially when you come to the research element of it, to make sure that sustainability is not an elective part of the learning outcomes, but it becomes a mandatory part. So yes, sustainability is part of this.
Great, and we're going to come to more questions at the end of the webinar. And in the meantime, we're going to go back to Travis to talk about online learning. So just stay put there, Tony. Thanks for your insights already. And for those of you who have more questions or comments to make for Tony, we'll make sure we make some time at the end of the webinar. So hold put there, Tony, and we'll be back to you. Great, thank you, Tony. So Travis, welcome back. So can we get started by having a look at the online learning experience and what, Travis, Tony mentioned there about how the programs are designed and things, but what is online learning like? What does Roehampton offer in terms of online learning?
Well, the University of Roehampton has a lot to offer when it comes to online learning. The greatest aspect I see in that is the fact that you can literally do it anywhere you have an internet connection. So it really offers a lot of flexibility for working professionals. So for instance, you are able to study while you're at work. Maybe while you're commuting, you can submit some assignments or receive some assignments on your smartphone. You always have the possibility of accessing your reading materials, and you can print them out and take them with you. So you really have the opportunity to just plan your own study around your work life and your personal life. Also, the program is accessible 24 hours a day, so that's really allows you to really figure out exactly when is the best time. And I have some students right now who find that early in the morning is the best time for them to study. Some people kind of do it in segments throughout the day, and other people tend to do it at night. So it really just that flexibility of an online program is the greatest aspect. The program really deals with kind of contemporary issues in the industry, as Tony mentioned. It's really a forward-thinking program when it comes to what you'll be learning and which you'll be preparing yourself for in supply chain as the industry continually evolves. And I think it would be a great program not only for some people who do have the experience in in supply chain management at the moment, to get that kind of innovative and evolutionary kind of understanding of what supply chain will be in the near future. And you also mentioned a bit about developing kind of critical thinking skills and practical knowledge, and that is the root of academic studies in itself. The programs that we have, they definitely really force you to really develop your critical thinking skills, because it is a very independent study in relation to more traditional styles of program of study, and it forces you to really take a step within and kind of test yourself and really take that proactive approach to studying and doing your assignments. And I think the best part about doing the program while online, while working, is the fact that you are able to study at the same time and work. So whatever you're learning that particular day, you can immediately transition and take that into your work environment, and that not only gives you a great level of critical thinking, because you really get to actually see that thing you're learning in practice, but also it really reflects on your work life. Some students we have actually gotten a promotion within a few months after starting the program, and that's directly related to them being able to take what they're learning and put it immediately into practice. And one of the largest aspects of doing an online program that a lot of people don't really grasp, because they think online, they think it's just talking to a computer, or just working with a computer alone. But it's almost the same as a traditional program. You're working with people. You have a faculty member that you're interacting with on almost a daily basis. The only difference is that you're not there physically, and all the great functions of that, meeting people, gaining new perspectives, you still have. And the programs that we have to offer are great, because the shared activity aspect allows you to network with people who are like yourself, a working professional who has years of experience in their specific industry, whether that be supply chain management or any other kind of industry. You have the opportunity to work closely with these people, share ideas, and also form that network that can even help you later on in your own business.
Great, thanks Travis, and I think that's a really good introduction into what online learning is. And for those of you who have any questions about online learning, if this is very new to you, then please do send them in the Q&A, and then we'll make sure that we make some time for that. So really good, thanks Travis. And for a lot of people, tuition is also a big aspect of studying. So can you tell us, an overview of what people can expect from investing into a Roehampton Online program and how that works?
Okay, well, yes, I can definitely do that. So, as you said, it's an investment, and the tuition fee is an investment on your future. I'm sure it is a short-term, medium-term burden on some financial situations, but you're going to have this master's degree for the rest of your life. So it is very much an investment in yourself and your career. As you can see here, the total tuition for the program is $10,000 US, and that includes not only access to the online classroom, but all of your study materials. So majority of your classroom, your reading materials are actually uploaded onto the classroom environment for you to access. But you also have access to the University of Roehampton's online library, where you'll be able to find many sources of academic papers and journals and books. As you can see, the total tuition is $10,000 US, but it's split into modules, because the course is modular, as Tony described, that it's split into several modules, and in total there are 8 modules. And the way the tuition is planned is that every module, so every 3 months, followed by a 2-week gap in between. So every 3 months you'd make a module payment of $1,111 US. So what that kind of roughly breaks down to in a monthly kind of rate, if you're like myself, you get paid on a monthly basis, it helps to think in terms of monthly costs. It's usually around $345 to $350 US a month. But it's definitely the idea for the module program is that you kind of pay as you go. So you make the first module payments, you receive access to everything, you start preparing before the program actually begins using our skill development units, and then you begin the program, and in that time you're working and studying, and you're saving up money to make that next module payment in 3 months' time.
Great, thanks, Travis. And that's, if anyone wants any more information, they can speak to their enrollment advisor about that. So that's a good introduction there. Thanks, Travis. And it's great to see lots of questions coming in whilst we have been talking to Travis. So I'm going to make sure we ask some of them here. So firstly, actually, we had 2 questions relating to this, and I'm going to ask this to you, Tony. So about assessments. So both questions were kind of saying, what is the mode of assessment? How are people assessed? Are there any exams? How does that work?
Okay. I'll answer the last question. There are no exams, but there are summative assessments, and it works like this. Let me give you the example of the first module, Learning and Leading in a Dynamic Era. As I said, this is based on independent study for the most part, so there's 80% of the total summative assessment that is assessed on what we call a final project, which is submitted at the end of week 12, but by all means, it is not started at the beginning of week 12. It is started way at the beginning of the module, and in that particular portion, there's a three-part component to it. And there is, each three parts, and if by memory, I think the three parts are worth 20, 30, and 30 each. And so that's the big chunk. Then, throughout the 12 weeks, you are engaging in what we call shared activities. It's like participation in discussions and sharing the work that you're currently doing with your classmates, sharing the content areas of the module, and those are assessed. They're assessed by the faculty member, by your instructor, and you are being given a grade on that is worth 20% on that. In a world that we may be used to, or some of us are used to, is what we used to call class participation. But it's class participation not only in the sense of being in class, it's being in the sense in participating and sharing your ideas in a critical way. So that's that particular 20%. So summatively, that's how the module is assessed. Throughout the 6 learning units, you will receive feedback every 2 weeks. And this is formative feedback, meaning it's not linked to a grade, on the work that you will have done every 2 weeks. Because there is work that's done every 2 weeks that is submitted, but it is not graded until the end. But your faculty will tell you this part A has to be improved because it doesn't contain 1, 2, 3, and 4, and part B is very good, and keep working on that. So that's the type of feedback that you receive. And finally, in the middle of the module, after week 6, in other words, after learning unit 3, you will receive an indicative grade. So indicative grading is, we'll say, so far what you've done, the grade doesn't count, but so far what you've done, if it would count as a grade, you would get 75, you'd get 80, you would get 60, you would get 65. And that grade is indicative in the sense that it is not a grade that will be factored in the final, but it gives you a direction of where you're headed, if you're headed in the right direction or not. And so that's how grading is done.
Great, thanks, Tony. And one of the other questions, it's a good question actually, is there any age and experience limits for this program? So the person who asked was explaining, I'm 25 and I have 2 years experience. So what kind of student are you looking for in this program?
The question is for me or for Travis?
Yeah, I don't know whoever's best placed to answer. Maybe Travis, actually,
yeah.
If you could explain.
Well, theoretically, there's no age limit. You need to meet the entry requirements of the program, and they are fairly strict. But we have the fortunate benefits that the application process is very quick and easily done. In order to qualify for the program, you need to have a certain combination of academic and professional experience. So, for instance, traditionally, you need to have at least a bachelor's degree and some work experience in supply chain management. But the UK system of master's degrees allows a student or a candidate to do the program based on work experience alone. So there's definitely to get more understanding about that, I would suggest you speak to your particular enrollment advisor, because they can best advise you, whether you meet the entry requirements, and also, if not, how to go about doing that, so that in maybe a year or a few months you could join the program.
Okay, and
Pearl,
yeah, go on.
Can I just come back to the first question you asked me?
Of course.
For a bit, because I don't think I closed the loop properly. So that's how assessments are made, are done, are given to you. But before they are finalized, this is what I want to cover. Before they are finalized, all the assessments in a class, we take a sample of them and we go through a process called moderation. So there's an independent person that goes in and, let's say, takes 20% of the assessments and just comments. Doesn't say the mark is is exact or not exact, but it says the mark reflects what the learning outcome and what the rubric said, so I'm confident that the marking is fine. That doesn't make it official because 3 times a year I meet with the board of examiners, which is chaired by the director of the business school at Roehampton, and we formally approve the grades before they, that's when they become officially approved in the presence of an external examiner. So that's how the full process works.
Yeah, and thank you for adding that because it just highlights how rigorous these programs are and how serious these programs are. So it really is from you to the faculty to the institution level. It's that people are getting a very quality program because they should be proud when they come out of this with this program because it's been a rigorous process.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have one last very quick question. Because this is a question that comes up a lot, and Travis, if you can just answer this quickly, just in this aspect of time. But one of the questions that came in was, would the certificate be issued reflect that it's a certificate from an online program, or the normal university certificate issued to normal regular students? And that's something that a lot of people want to know. So if you could just quickly highlight the answer, that would be great.
Yes, I definitely hear that a lot, and I understand the concern behind it. So, after the end of the program, when you graduate, what you'll receive is the same degree certificates as a campus student. So it will say Master's Degree in Strategic Supply Chain Management, University of Roehampton. Only on the actual transcript will it mention the fact that it's been an online study. So, depending on what your needs are, it's definitely a possibility to just have the master's degree, because that's what you're getting. You're getting a UK master's degree, and it doesn't really, sometimes it doesn't really matter the distinction between online and normal. It's definitely the level of learning you're going to get is going to be the same as a campus student. It's just a matter of how some companies and countries look at it. But I see no difference at all. But if you have more questions about this and you require more details, I would definitely recommend that you have a lengthy discussion with your enrollment advisor about this. I'm sure they'll have a lot to say on this matter.
Great, thanks, Travis.
Pearl,
Yeah, go on.
sorry for jumping in again.
No, of course, Tony.
To this particular point, I mentioned about validation before, and when we validate the programs, when we ask the external panel to validate our program, the first objective that they want to see met is that the learning objectives of the online program are the same as the ones on campus. Otherwise, the programs won't get validated, and then we won't be able to offer them. So the learning objectives are the same. So as Travis said, the degree is transmitted, is awarded on the basis of Masters of Business Administration, University of Roehampton. So that's the key there. The learning objectives are the same, campus and online.
Great, thanks, Tony. And so just to bring this webinar to a close, for those of you who still have questions, please continue asking them in the Q&A. We have enrollment advisors on standby and they can answer them for you. But Travis, maybe you can just, for those who are interested in taking the next step and joining the University of Roehampton, can you just give a high-level kind of overview of what they do next?
Okay, well, many of you have been already in discussion with an enrollment advisor. So definitely work with them, making sure, first of all, that the course is something you'd like to do. That would benefit you either personally or professionally. And then, once you make that decision, work with the enrollment advisor in preparing all the application documents. And once the application has been submitted to the admissions board, usually within around a 24 to 48-hour time period, you'll receive indication as whether you've been accepted or not. And then it's just a matter of very soon after, usually within 4 to 5 days, to go about making that first module payment. And then you'd be reserved and enrolled into the program. And then all you have to do is wait for the start dates. And this is a very crucial time here. Usually the best time to enroll is a good 6 weeks before the actual start date begins, because we have available for our students who are waiting to start the program something called Skill Development Units on InspireNet, which is our social network for students, faculty, and support staff. And these skill development units are there to help you prepare for your study. And we've seen from past students that people who are able to take the time to properly prepare for the study often are a lot more successful once the program begins. So it's very important that you, say you want to start now for January. There is about 5 weeks before the program actually begins. So this is the perfect opportunity to become a fully enrolled student and take that time to start preparing. But for future students who are looking to begin in April, perhaps, the best time to start is now, because the sooner you begin doing those skill development units and the sooner you begin developing your academic skills, as well as getting into the habit of just doing an online independent study, the more successful you'll be.
Thanks, Travis. And you mentioned January there, so if someone wants to start in January, what date is the start date?
Yes. So the next start date is the 23rd of January. We also have one that's on the 3rd of April after that.
Thank you. Perfect. So that brings us to a close of this webinar, and I hope for those of you listening you found it interesting and insightful. I certainly have. So a huge thank you to Tony for joining us today and introducing us to supply chain in the program. Thanks very much.
Thank you, and it was my pleasure, and I hope to see our webinar colleagues today, the attendees in our classes soon.
Yeah, me too. And again, thank you to Travis as well for sharing insight into the online learning environment.
My pleasure.
And for those of you listening, a big thank you. We appreciate the fact that you took the time out of your day to have a listen to this program and to listen to Tony and to Travis. We really do appreciate that, and thank you again. And we hope to maybe, as Tony said, see you one day in class. So have a good day.